perfect. Perfect. Deji LaRay, I pronounced that correctly, right?
Right, that's right.
You know, I need to stop doing that at the beginning of these videos because if I didn't do it right, you're gonna correct me, and now everybody sees that.
Yeah, no, it's all good.
So I just want to get into Johnson. And I have this, you know, I think Black people, we have this thing where, you know, we start adding S's to things because I'll say Johnson's. And I don't, do you have people do that all the time or is that just me?
All the time, Mike, all the time. Why do we do that, man? You know, even people who work on the show be like the Johnsons. I'm like, yo, you work on the show, bro. Like you see the call sheet every day, you see the scripts, like, yeah, it's just Johnson, it's singular, you know, it's like, you know, it's just a statement. Johnson, singular, no S. We always do that, though.
We got to do better. You're like, look, I'm paying y'all still can't. You're like, I should feel a little disrespected, but you know what? It's right now, it's a lot going on in the world.
So it's 4 of us, so I get it. I see what
So Deji, I just finished season 2. Y'all ended with a cliffhanger on that one. So I'm not going to talk about it just in case if anyone didn't finish it yet. But I really want to get straight into it. This premise of these 4 different Black men, right? And I really feel like we can all relate, even if you didn't grow up in a full Black environment, because you can tell some can relate to that person. You know, the one who has the white wife because he felt rejected by Black women. Then you got the one who's, you know, just seems like he just can't get it right. Then you have yourself who just seems like, it's just like, I'm always on the verge. Your character is always on the verge of like, I'm trying to be a stand-up guy, but I'm acting like a character from Love and Hip Hop half the time. Because, a temptation gets me. How did this really come about for you to not only create this show, but understand these were the 4 archetypes of Black men that needed to be present for us?
Well, you know, it came about a few years back, man. I was, you know, just watching TV and just not really seeing any characters that really spoke to who I was as a Black man, who my friends are. You know, it's about representation. You know, you watch TV and you don't see anybody who really represents who you are, your essence, you know, your beliefs, your experience. And, you know, I feel like representation is very important. You know, some of my favorite shows on TV, you know, shows like The Wire and crime dramas like that. And I think that's what a lot of men might gravitate to more, you know, things like that, which is all fine and good. You know, The Wire is one of my favorite shows, but I feel like when you turn off The Wire, you got to be able to turn on another show that gives you the other side, right? So it's not just so one-sided. And, you know, Black women have done an incredible job, as you know, creating stories, you know, taking control of their own narrative with television shows that, you know, show the synergy between, you know, sisters and women and friendships and things like that, that really explored their experience in society. And I didn't really see anything that reflected us, you know, and I wanted to create this friend group that was very relatable to everybody's friend group. Like you said, it doesn't matter where you come from, who you are, you can see yourself or one of your friends in one of these characters, or even a combination of all these characters combined. A little piece of Greg, a little piece of Jarvis, you know, Omar. So, you know, it was like, yo, let's tell a story that represents Black men and Black women in a way that we can be proud of, right? And so, you know, just got to work on the script, and you know, I met Thomas Q. Jones, who was my producing partner with my production company, and he shared the same sentiment. You know, he felt the exact same way. We had a lot of things in common when it came to the type of story we wanted to tell. So we partnered up and started shopping it around Hollywood and landed with A Bird and a Bear Entertainment, Cedric the Entertainer, Eric C. Rohn. And then we took it over to Bounce. Incredible home. They allow us to, you know, tell our stories without a filter, in a sense. I mean, it's TV, so, you know, we got advertisers and all that. So of course we have limitations, but in terms of the content and the message that we want to get across, man, is, you know, is pretty much unfiltered, you know, from script to screen. So very proud of that. And, you know, these guys are guys that people can relate to. We have a responsibility, I think, if we're not, you know, telling a crime drama or we're not telling a murder mystery or something like that. This is a show that is about our lives, our experience in society. So therefore, we have a responsibility to be as authentic and true as possible. And so I do feel like Johnson, in a way, represents a good majority of Black men and men in general, and in certain aspects, you know, the way we think about life, the way we think about religion, the way we think about, you know, marriage and things like that. We cover a lot of different topics on this show. So I know that's a long-winded response to your question.
I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. No, I think it's amazing, right? Because when I look at Johnson and I look at the men and I can relate, right? And what I do love about it is that you just made it where people can relate to these men. You didn't have to put really big labels. You know, me as just as a gay man, a part of the LGBT community, you didn't have to interject a character and such, you know, because sometimes you can see that with film and television, especially in this day and age, they like to make sure that there's Gen Zs, you know, they try to cater it to the next generation, where yours is just literally, this is for Black men, you know what I mean? And I think that's all, and it's great because then you developed intentional storylines and different things, because once you try to satisfy other, you know, communities and cultures and things of that nature, then it's harder to create that narrative. What I see, you know what I mean? I love that part where you see it, where it's like the bro code, it was violated, but you know what I mean? Because with 4 characters with a script, you have to be so intentional. You're constrained to like a certain amount of time. So I think that's really, really genius of it. And, you know, this is just coming from a man, part of several communities, right? It's important because you get people who are like, why didn't you put this in there? This isn't represented. And I just want to say that first off, that all Black men are represented, gay, straight, whatever, we're represented in there. We don't need sometimes the labels and titles.
It's true, man. And, you know, going back to what you said about all 4 characters, you know, we have half an hour. We have half an hour to tell 4 different stories of 4 different men who, you know, the audience has to be fulfilled at the end of that episode. It's like, you might have an audience member who likes, you know, Omar the best, you know, well, we got to have enough of Omar in there. We got to have enough of his storyline that satisfies those people who are tuning in to see Omar, and the same with Keith and Jarvis and Greg. And yeah, you know, this is a show that anybody can relate to, regardless of, you know, your sexual orientation, regardless of your race, regardless of your gender, where you come from, you know, because we deal with issues that everybody goes through. It doesn't matter where you come from. You're going to deal with, especially as a Black man, you're going to deal with gentrification. Now, you're going to deal with, you know, organized religion. How do you feel about that? You know what I'm saying? You're going to deal with, you know, somebody in your family is going to be dealing with parenting and you know, is it still cool for you to spank your kids? These are real life issues that we all go through, right? And it's not our job to tell you this is right and this is wrong. It's our job to just, you know, present the conversation. We have multiple perspectives on the show. Everybody chimes in. And then, you know, you take from it what you take from it. You form your own opinion based on, you know, who you agree with. So it's really a conversation starter.
No, definitely. And that's why I wanted to say that off bat, because I know when you do a show with 4 Black men, there's so much scrutiny and so many people have so many things like, Deji, you should have did this. Well, make sure if you get season, and you're just like, that, you guys, it's like, I always say, it's like Big Mama's recipe. She taught you how to put that pinch of like something on there, but when somebody says, well, add this, it's like, nah, but that's, you know what I mean? It's your sauce and it has to stay true. And the reason why I say that is because at the end of it all, when you look at it, there's such a vulnerability with these characters. You know, you have Thomas's character and who really is trying to fight for his marriage and fight for these things. You know, that's a vulnerability. You know, your character just can't get it right, can't get a break, but there's a vulnerability. And then the other 2 men, you know, there's vulnerabilities in one just feeling like he just should be happy with the woman he's with, even though it's like you're getting used, you know, with Sasha Dakota's character and different things. I always know everybody by name and different things. I'm never a good character name person. I'm probably dude. I'm always like,
I see that. Well, you're actually the opposite, because most people call people by their character names and you call people by their real actor names. So that's pretty impressive, to be honest with you.
I was like, wait, how you know how Sasha Dakota? Yeah. But you know, and I think that what was that thing that made you say I have to show? Because every episode you see Black male vulnerability. I swear it's like this show has the most vulnerable Black men ever, because they're angered by, you know, just society not seeing them. They're angry because their boys don't see them. You know, they're getting talked of. You know, where did that come from to make sure that there was this element of vulnerability?
Because it's real life. Because, you know, I think historically, you know, the way that Black men have been portrayed is that we are void of emotion, right? That we are one dimensional. When you see a lot of TV shows, you know, that has Black men as characters, a lot of times, not all the time, but a lot of times, you know, we're used as props. Mm-hmm. We're used as pawns. We're used as, you know, somebody who moves another character's narrative forward without really getting a good glimpse of our backstory, where we come from, why we feel the way that we feel. And so what I wanted to do with these characters is, number one, I wanted us to take accountability and responsibility for the things that we get wrong. That's very important. And so these guys all have faults. They all have faults. You know, Greg, my character, he's not really motivated by much. He's trying to figure out what he wants to do with his life. He's a late bloomer. A lot of people can relate to that. You know, you have a regular, I don't want to say regular, but you have a job that a lot of people might not deem as glorious. You know, like in season 2, you know, he becomes the maintenance man for school. Yeah. People keep calling him the janitor. That makes him feel a certain kind of way. He has pride, but you know, his best friend Jarvis has money, owns his own real estate firm. You know, so in our society, you might not think that these two types of men would be hanging out together with best friends, can confide in each other. And so I think it's important to change the narrative. I think it's important to show Black men, I hate using the word human, you know what I'm saying? But in a way that, you know, we feel just like anybody else. Mm-hmm. You know, we laugh, we cry, you know, we're anxious about things, we fall in love. The key that makes this show special, I would say, regardless of the faults, regardless of the mishaps that the guys make, the bad decisions, poor decisions that they make, great decisions they make, is that they always have good intentions. Yeah. Right? So whether or not you agree with Greg or Omar in what he does, at the core, you know that he has good intentions and it can be worked out to some extent. And so we also want to show these men as emotionally intelligent, mm-hmm. right? Because that's another thing that's been mischaracterized when it comes to us in the media, is like, we have an issue with somebody, especially each other. What do we resort to? Violence, mm-hmm. right? So how do we X that out of the equation and figure out how to resolve our conflicts with each other in a more emotionally intelligent way and manner, with respect, but still being able to express our emotions. So that's why, you know, these characters are vulnerable, because they're expressing themselves and expressing their emotions.
Nice. And the great thing is that you make sure you show brothers holding each other accountable, even in moments, in the good and bad. You know, when someone does something wrong, you know, you guys are telling Thomas Q. Jones, we told you to let her go, but nope, you wanted to do that. Now you mess up the brotherhood. You got to fix it, you know. And then you also at the end show that, hey, we're also going to support and, you know, get you this art gallery, you know, supporting a friend where that dream, you know, most people want to say, I want to support you if it's going to be fruitful and, you know, so if it's for me, but you want to support something where it's just like, most people look at it as a pipe dream, you know, so you're showing several Black men supporting each other in their own endeavors without judgment, like you said, without it being like, this is a group of 4 doctors, you know what I mean? Because then it makes it sound like Black men can only elevate with each other on a certain socioeconomic status. That's right. That creates a whole nother conversation.
Listen, everybody's not going to be a doctor. Everybody's not going to be a lawyer. Everybody's not successful. Everybody's not successful. Everybody's not in the streets. Like, everybody is different. And yes, the whole point is to show, regardless of your you know, how much money you have, you know, where you fit in the class system, because we deal with classism on this show too in season 2, you know, especially from a Black man who didn't get his degree, actually dating a Black woman who did get her degree, and actually has made it pretty far in life, and where that lands when it comes to a romance, you know. So all these things we touch on, and I think it's very important, because these are conversations that people are having. I can't tell you how many messages
Yeah.
we get, Thomas and myself, DMs, emails, any kind of way, tweets, whatever, talking about, yo, I was watching this show with my girl, or women saying, I thought this show was going to be biased because it is a male POV show, technically, but it's a show for Black women just as much as Black men. And the Black women are just as strong on the show. They challenge the Black men. And they have very strong storylines as well. So that's one of the biggest compliments, that it's not biased. Mm-hmm. But yeah, we get messages all the time, man. People talking about, how it forced them to think of something they were going through in a different perspective, how it changed their life. Like, I'm talking about paragraphs. Nice. Because what we deal with on this show, the content we deal with on this show, is so personal to a lot of people. It's things that people go through. People are going through it right now. So it's very relatable, very relatable. I think that's what's special about the show.
It's not only relatable, but it also has a point of view from not just men, but also showing women how they have to look at life differently too. Because with Terry J. Vaughn's character, again, by name, yep. I go back to that scene when you guys were at the dinner party, right? And everybody's surprised, and then she's in the kitchen. Well, I'm not gonna really be with him for that long. It's fun, but it has a stopping point, which I think is. I always look at writing, right? When I look at shows, I go deep into it. I'm like, anything Black, even if I'll watch a Black show, even if I know it got canceled Deadline lets me know it got canceled, I'll still support it because I just want to see what the writing was about, right? And I think with that episode, it was funny because she's saying that, but you're in the kitchen, you're at the table, really thinking you're going somewhere with this person, you know what I mean? But this other person is saying no because of classism. Because of he's just not that ambitious or this or that. And I think moments like that are so important in writing because it could be men or women. It doesn't matter. It could be any type of homosexual, heterosexual relationship where you're choosing to say that this person who has lied on his resume, never was a janitor, but saying he wants to get his life back together, but he's only good sexually for you at the end of the day, and you're ready to let him go when you are.
Why does she not want to progress with this guy? Is it because of how she personally feels or how she's going to look to everybody else? We're worrying about what everybody else thinks as opposed to finding, okay, look, she's successful. She doesn't need Greg for a lot of things. She definitely doesn't need his money because he ain't got none. All she needs is what she's getting from him. Mm-hmm. And because of how it looks, because of what she's accomplished and the circle that she keeps, that's still an issue. And so, it kind of shines a mirror on, us as a people in ways too, Black men, Black women, it's a mirror and it's a conversation starter. So that's actually one of my favorite episodes that we did, episode 7, the dinner party scene, man. And part of the motivation was waiting to exhale.
Oh, nice.
Right? Yeah. So everybody just coming together. And I had written the script, and then Insecure did it. And I think in their final season where they were going to go out and then they all stayed in. Yeah. It just got very personal, like personal conversation. And that, we only had one location or a couple locations that entire episode, man. And it was probably, to me, one of the most impactful episodes, one of the most entertaining.
No, definitely. And I think it's important because also it shows like going down this downward spiral at the end when you do come to the rescue still, but then also shows that some people, though you felt this person wouldn't take it farther, but you saw this person actually finesse the system to save you. You know what I mean? Yeah. I think there's layers to it when you're going down the character development. That's just that's how I look at TV when I'm looking at the things, you know what I mean? I'm like, there's things that people don't see. It's like, you tie back into episode 7 where it makes that statement where he's not enthusiastic enough or he's not that encouraged to do more. But when it came down to it, this is a person who said, you know what, I'll lose this job, make sure you're okay.
Yep.
Then you still at the end said you weren't good enough, but then come back later like, well, maybe. And it's just like, you can't take people, there's all these things. And I think that's the human part where it's like, no, Black men are human. They they feel, they love, and they can love deeply too, because I don't think people see that in this, they don't get that you're showing that there's a deep love, because they think black men get over it, you know.
Yeah, man, yes. And I think also another point is the fact that, you know, when it comes to us getting the benefit of the doubt, right? It's like oftentimes, you know, I'm sure, you know, other people go through this, but I feel like we go through it a lot, to where what we say isn't automatically taken at face value. It's always got to be, oh, well, I know you said that, but this is really your intention, or this is really what you mean, right? And so these characters have to go through that. They have to not only say certain things, say how they feel, but we have to see them go through the motions to really make somebody believe it, you know? And so, you know, I think that's one of the conflicts that some of these characters go through, is not being trusted and accepted for who they are and what they say when they say it.
No, definitely. And I think it's and I think, I hate when I say I think, I know it's because that they also don't feel heard. And it's funny because you live in a society where everybody tells everybody to hear me, hear the other person, right? We talk about communication. Make sure it's a two-way street. Make sure you are actively listening. But you have these black men who are actively talking, but no one's actively listening, and people are picking up their own narrative for them. Was it important for you to like create even narratives on that thing, like especially like mental health, because you have those things, you have kind of conversations in there about like addiction and mental health, and you know, around, you know, the black male perspective?
Yeah, absolutely. In season one, we dealt with Omar finding himself dealing with an anger management therapist, counselor, who he kind of develops a relationship with, and realizes how important therapy is, mental health is. You know, the fact that most of the time as Black people, when we, you know, instead of seeking out a professional, when it comes to the mental health field, like we want to seek out the church or religion, all of these different, you know, statistics that are true, but you know, we don't understand how it affects our community. And then in season two, you know, you see Omar and Naomi in counseling as well. So we want to make sure that when people watch this show and you see these characters going to therapy, going to counseling, that it's a consistent theme that happens throughout all the seasons to, in a certain way, somewhat normalize this, that it's okay. Because, you know, for me growing up, you know, number one, that was only something rich people did. You know, we didn't go seek that kind of help. We talked to our parents if we had to, or we talked to somebody in the neighborhood, but not a professional, because we didn't feel like we could afford it. The resources weren't there when I was younger, the way that the resources are there now. Number two, we didn't have the representation. We still don't have the representation, right? If you're a young Black male and part of your issue is what you experience and go through in society when it comes to, you know, police brutality, or if you're a Black woman and, you know, part of your fear about having a baby is what Black women go through in the medical field and in the hospital, and how they're discriminated against, all these different things, but you're going to talk to somebody who's not a Black man or not a Black woman, then they're not going to truly understand where you're coming from. So representation hasn't been there, and it's still not up to the numbers that it needs to be for Black mental health professionals.
No, definitely. Even before I get into other parts of like, you know, the show and development, we did a mental health piece one time earlier this year, and we had a mental health expert, Black woman, and she talked about like things, what is it? Cultural, I forgot the, just basically the word was about cultural competency. That's why people need to have, you know, therapists of a certain race, gender, or orientation, because they're going to have a cultural competency to help you understand and navigate that. But she gave the alarming statistics, while suicide rates for you know, our white counterparts is going down dramatically, ours are going up, doubled in numbers, and especially the highest numbers in Black men. And the crazy part is the numbers are highest between, like, I think she said the 17 and like 25 or something, you know what I mean? Those pivotal ages. So it's something important with what you're doing there. And outside of that, it's funny because you show different things that Black men go through with the character when he's trying to make sure he's interjects himself in the white world, right? He's real estate developer, all these things, the white wife and all this stuff. You touch on that because you touch on the one who goes like, you know what, the only way I can make it, as sometimes they say, just because it's white don't make it right. But for him, he thought maybe that was going to be the case. But then you have D.L. Hughley his character come in and he shines light on understanding those microaggressions, you know. And it's so funny because you show this, it's that was, I saw that, I was like, oh, that's genius, because you show those things where you guys are at the pool, he's like, nope, he can't play with us, he can't play poker with us, and he breaks everything down. Where'd that come from?
Yeah, I think it came from making sure that everybody was spoken to. I do think the same way, certain parts of our demographic don't feel heard. I do feel like there are Black men and Black women in a class that is higher than a lot of people who feel like they may not be Black enough to be accepted, right? And so we wanted to still make this character cool. He's still cool, but he grew up with us. He went to Yale. He met his wife, who happens to be white. He didn't go seeking a white wife. He met her. She happens to be white because of proximity in the school that he went to. And so I think in his mind, he probably thought that he was safe, right? He had who he was married to, the class that he's in, his friend circle with her friends and things like that. And I do think that sometimes, Black men of a certain class feel like they're safe because they have money. They might feel like, certain things that, we go through, in terms of Black men doesn't really affect them or is not going to affect them. And Jarvis goes through a traumatic experience at the end of season 1, where he's shown that he's still Black, a Black man in America. And it happens to him by another Black man. Yeah. That was intentional. The fact that it wasn't a white man who did it, it was another Black man who did it. So whether it's law enforcement, Black cops, whether it's Black men who are in a certain class status, we still got to be connected to our people and who we are. You never forget where you came from. And so that was a dose of reality for him. And so it's not really preaching that. I think, Jarvis has a lot of great points and a lot of great qualities that counter what he's experienced. He should be able to love who he wants to love. He should be able to, be in a position where he doesn't have to worry about being harmed as a Black man by the police. These are all things that are true, but it's just not reality for a lot of places in America and for a lot of people. A lot of people have very strong opinions about interracial dating and different things like that. So we just wanted to show it. Yeah. We wanted to give his perspective. And then we had Greg, which is my character, who gives the other perspective. Like, bro, can't nobody love you like a Black woman, period, right? And so these are different perspectives and different things that you hear in our community. And who's right, who's wrong? It just depends on how whose side you take, how you feel, what you see, what you like.
No, definitely. I want to be conscious of your time too, so I want to just ask a couple more questions. Oh, yeah. Okay. One, and like I said, I dissect episodes. That's my thing. I dissect series, and I look. I don't know. I just always look at the grand scheme of it. Like, what did season 2 say to me, really? Right? What was it trying to tell us? But then one, I also love that, and I hope no one gets mad at this when I say this, but I loved how you use Thomas' character and show that women shouldn't weaponize their kids when it comes to divorce and keeping the father away, because that was a big tone. And if anybody didn't notice that, and they probably slept on they were just watching it on autopilot. But that was the thing. Was that something that you came up with, or a writer or something? Because I was like, oh, this is genius, because you hear it all the time, and then you're using this man's past. He's angry, he's this, and it's just like, whoa, he's like, I just want to be here for my son. Even at the game on that episode where he's angry because the dude's doing it. And it's just like, well, now he's angry. You got anger issues. It's like, okay, he does, but then also our counterparts do the same thing, but we get it's so it's like there's a lot to unpack with that.
Yes, these are themes that that we don't want it to be like, oh, here's another topic or thing we want to discuss. Let's throw it at you. Nah, let's create entertainment around it.
Yeah.
Let's let it last a season or a couple of seasons. Let people take from it by falling in love with this character, Omar. When you fall in love with a character, right? If somebody close to you just told you about somebody else and how they're a deadbeat or they don't do this or they don't do that, you're going to form a perception of them, and you're probably going to side with the person who told you this information. You don't know that person who they're talking about. You just hear what they're saying. It sounds believable. You trust your friend. That's it. But oftentimes, everybody has a story. And they say there's three sides of the truth. There's this side, there's your side, and then there's the real truth in the middle ground. And so if you fall in love with these characters, you fall in love with Omar, then you do root for him. You do root for him to be in his son's life, regardless of what he might have, put Naomi through, or regardless of her perspective. A child needs their father, period. A child needs their mother. A child needs both of their parents. Now, I understand that there are situations and circumstances that are unavoidable to where, that may not be possible for some people. And, in those circumstances, then we got to figure out, or people involved have to figure out how to maneuver around that, whether it's, mentors or big brothers or role models or somebody, whatever, right? Mm-hmm. Fine, I get that. But if the opportunity is there to have the father in the child's life, it is extremely important. Black dads, studies have shown Black dads are the most engaged fathers in the nation. And what that means is, what I'm talking about is being present, giving, feeding their kids, taking their kids out, giving their kids baths, changing their kids' diapers. I'm talking about being present. Black dads are the most engaged fathers in the nation. And so, we just got to change that narrative, man, because it's, a lie is going to travel further than the truth. It's so easy to believe. It's been happening for decades and centuries about, Black fathers, and it couldn't be further from the truth. I don't know any Black men who are not in their kids' life. Exactly. Not one single one. And I know a lot of Black men with kids. I don't know any that's not in their kids' life. And if I did, I wouldn't be friends with them. Yeah. Because we wouldn't have the same things in common when it comes to raising the next generation, right? Raising, future kings and queens in this world. That's a foundation of like who we are. So taking care of your kids is a must. And regardless of what your relationship is with your significant other, like, the kids need both of their parents. And so, yes, we wanted to show that instead of tell it, give you a chance to fall in love with Omar, root for him, and see him fight for his son. It's very important.
Nice. I love that. That's the genius behind it. We've broken down the show. We've broken down the thing. We've broken down why you did it, right? So we got through season 2. How was the journey for you to get this, like, to where it is now? Like, there are so many people, and it's just because I always feel in this day and age of instant gratification, people don't know how many doors got slammed in your face, how many times, someone was trying to maybe even take a rip off of it, you know what I mean? Yeah. Or some, just, so what was that like for you going through getting Johnson here now?
Years.
How many years?
I wrote the original pilot in 2014. Now, obviously, not every single day from 2014, I'm not shopping the show, right? I'm a writer, so I'm writing a lot of scripts. I'm writing feature films. I'm writing other TV shows. I have Johnson. But throughout that process, sometimes it's a big push for it, and then sometimes it might sit on the back burner because the low-hanging fruit might be another project that might be right for this opportunity that you have. So you push this other project forward. But I would say when things got really serious was in 2017. when I met Thomas. You know, I approached him because I wanted him to be an actor on the show. And he said, you know, I don't want to just be an actor on the show. I want to be a producer on the show. I believe in this show. I believe in what this show stands for. So tell me what you need to make this happen. I was like, yo, let's shoot an independent pilot. Let's show people what this show is, because when you give people a script in Hollywood, nobody wants to read. Number one, nobody wants to read, period, right?
Especially a show about four, like.
Bro, listen, man, because they feel like they know what we have to say already. It's like, well, why would, no, especially if they don't know who you are.
Yeah.
If they know who you are and you're a reputable producer, okay, cool. They'll sit down, they'll read it, or they'll give it to somebody, an assistant or whatever, to read. If it's good enough, then they'll read it if they can make decisions. So it was very difficult, you know, at times. Don't get me wrong. I think what helped was the fact that we shot the independent pilot. It gave us a chance to really show who these characters are, because the characters jumped off the screen. It wasn't about them being on the page. Once we shot the pilot, I think things started to move a lot faster. 2018, we started shopping it. We got good feedback from a lot of different places, but yes, pulling the trigger on it, green lighting it, was difficult because, you know, people didn't feel like there was a market for this show in general. But I knew there was a market for the show, because I see people on social media, Black men and Black women, saying, yo, can we get a show that shows Black men in touch with their emotions? Why does everything have to be centered around violence? You know, why does everything have to be, you know, I'm tired of seeing slave movies. Like, these are the things that you see, right? So you see the people saying, yo, I wish we could see a show like this. And they were describing Johnson. And it was like a avalanche, and it just got bigger and bigger and bigger. I'm like, yo, the right time is now. And so in 2020, you know, with everything that happened with George Floyd, I think that probably had a little something to do with it as well, because in 2020 was the first time that I can remember where the entire world, including the industry, was a lot more willing to listen to what Black men had to say at that time, right? And, you know, it's true, you know? And so I think that was around, and I'm not saying that's the reason why we got the opportunity. We got the opportunity because, you know, the stories were compelling, the script was good. We had a pilot that really showed who these characters are. The pilot looked like it can go on TV right now. So we knew what we were doing from a production standpoint. But I think the climate at that time helped people to take a step back and be like, yo, is everybody being represented properly? You know, this is really serious. Representation is very important. And I think people realized that when it came to telling stories from the Black male's perspective, we needed more of that. Yeah. And we got the chance.
Nice. When you were shopping it around, and some people were like, yes, and then, you know, other people were trying to tell you maybe change this or change that. What were some of your, like, I'll tweak a little bit for, you know, advertisers, because it is a business still, you know, the only way to keep going, you have to give a little bit, and that's just in life. It's, you know, there's not perfect people like, I can't give anything, like, then you're not going to be a business person. Like, we all have to what were some of the things you were okay with giving up, with, like, not giving up, or tweaks, and some things you were like, I'm okay. This will go on.
I think from a writer's perspective, you know, you have to see if you get the same note from multiple people, multiple reputable people, then you have to really take a hard look at that. You know, if you get a suggestion or a note from one entity or one person about something that somebody else you respect disagrees with or didn't mention, or you feel strongly about that it shouldn't be that way, then, you know, you got to take your notes with the grain of salt. I think for a lot of my projects, I think I'm more willing to adapt, because say I have another script and it goes to HBO. Okay, cool. It goes to HBO. They want to rock with it. It has to be tailored to that market. Or, you know, it's on ABC or it's on this network. Every market, every outlet is a business, and it has to be tailored to their audience. And if you miss that point, if you're so closed-minded and hard-headed that you can't adjust your project to be tailored to the audience that you're trying to get a deal from, then you're never gonna get your project anywhere. But I think this project in particular was so special It had to be authentic. It had to be just how we had it, if not very similar, or we wouldn't do it. I think the alternative was that we were going to do this project and put it out ourselves on a platform. We were going to do that, and I was actually to that point several different times in the pitching process, because this project, out of all my projects, has to be super authentic.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. You can't have a bunch of cooks coming in and telling me or Thomas or some of the other people, Cedric and Eric, what the experience is for a Black man. It just doesn't make any sense. And so we had to trust ourselves, and Bounce was the perfect partner.
Yeah,
they gave us the opportunity. They trusted us, and they didn't have us go through the ringer when it comes to like changing too much. They had notes here and there, but it was nothing to change the integrity of what the show was.
Nice. I love that, Tom. I was about to say that you said you did it with Thomas, and I'm calling you by everybody's name. No, I love that because it's something that I think a lot of people need to hear, because we want to get to the top fast. Sometimes real fast, and just because we see everybody else, and we're like, man, I don't want. I tell people this always, like, you don't want to be Issa Rae awkward Black girl. You want to be Issa Rae insecure, and that's the problem, because that's when you got to know her. So. Yeah. People get to know Deji at season 2, and then it's like, because every new season there's more publicity, there's more marketing, there's more dollars. But
that's
people
right.
know 2014, Deji he was like writing everybody else's stuff and having to invest in himself and go through that struggle.
Yeah.
So last thing I want to end off on with people is what advice would you give someone, who's a writer, who's trying to produce, who's trying to be in this realm? Because it's we're in a climate where everyone wants to do it, but I just really feel like some people just need to understand, are you just excited because it seems like everybody's doing it, or do you really, really want to do this?
And that's a very tough question, man. A writer, a director, an actor, entertainment, I remember, when I first moved to LA, I was in LA for a few years, and I would get people from back in Atlanta. I'm from Atlanta. Like, yo, man, I want to come out to LA. I want to try this. I want to try this entertainment thing out. I want to act, or I want to, I want to write. I want to do this. I want to try it out. And I'm like, yo, this is not something you just come out and try out. You don't try it out for like a few months and see what happens. It's like, this is something that I tell people, and this might sound a little harsh, man, but I feel like if you see yourself doing anything else, then do it. Right? Because in this business, it could take years or decades to reach what you want to reach. It's a lot of sacrifice, it's a lot of time. But if you don't see yourself doing anything else, if there's absolutely nothing else that you don't see yourself doing in life, then this might be the industry for you. Yeah. Then do this. But when you do it, you got to commit, and you got to find what you're good at. See, the only way into the house is not through the front door. Right? If you want to act, maybe you need to, but you're really good at writing, but you want to act, be successful at writing, and then put yourself in it. You know what I'm saying? If you want to direct, but you're really good at editing, be successful at editing, and then build relationships and create the opportunity for you to direct. You can go through the back door, you can go through the basement, you can go through the window. You ain't got to go through the front door every time. Writing is fun, is creative. You have to be persistent. I think the moment that, whether it takes years or decades or whatever, the moment that you are going to stop or give up could be the moment that it happens for you. Yeah, it really truly could. I've been at this for a long time. I have so far to go, but I'm very happy with where I'm at. And that's another thing too, man, is never compare yourself. Never compare yourself to anybody else. Be grateful and happy for where you're at right now. If you're doing web series, and you got really dope web series, and you get 10,000 views on your web series, that is an accomplishment. There are people who, don't even know how to, they want to write, they want to produce, they don't even know how to put a story together. But you're doing web series, they're 7 minutes long, and people are watching them and leaving comments. Be happy with that. Yeah. Don't be satisfied to the point to where you don't strive for more. Strive for more, but be satisfied and happy with where you're at. I think when you become unhappy and you always want more and want more and want more, it's not a great feeling. It's not a great business, and it's not going to help you move forward when you have that mindset. You know, you gotta celebrate every single accomplishment. To be honest with you, man, Michael, yo, as a writer, if I write a script and it never gets produced and it's an amazing script and I can give it to you and you can read it and you see the story, then my work is done. Nice. The story is tangible. Yes. You've read the story. Somebody else other than myself in my own mind has experienced this world that I created. Doesn't matter that it's just one other person or 10 other people. It may not be millions, but somebody else experienced it. I'm happy for that much. Yeah. And I think when you're happy for what you have, then you become blessed with more. So that's my advice.
No, I love that. I love Stoic philosophy, right? And Seneca, a Greek philosopher, he has this statement. I paraphrase because I'm not good for the verbatim. I don't know how people do that. I don't know why y'all as writers write that on TV and no one's verbatim. I tell people no one's doing that. Okay, no one's verbatim Greek, unless they're a pastor in a megachurch or something. They know that. But he has a statement. He says, "The man who follows the opinions of others will never be rich, but the man who follows the path of nature will never be poor." And he goes in lengths to talk about how, you know, in nature things, there's a start and an end. He said, so that's what you're supposed to do in every endeavor. You're supposed to start something and end it. It's supposed to finish. He said, so that way you're on to the next thing. But when you're trying, opinions are fleeting. There's these things, like you said, it's always, that's why people are always trying to chase more and more, because they're not really stopping and appreciating and being present with that. So it's really important that you said that.
One of my favorite words actually is completion. It's one of my favorite words. Completion. Start something, complete it, finish it, bask in it, be proud of it, and then strategize on how to start something else and finish that. If you take it project by project, step by step, and build relationships, man. That's another thing too, is like this business is all about relationships. Build relationships and make sure that you protect you know, your name and how you treat other people. Because listen, man, people always want to network up. It's like, yo, Tyler Perry, yo, Antoine Fuqua, whoever, Denzel, yo, how can you help me get on? How can this person help me get on who's a producer or network executive over at Netflix? What about the people who are right next to you, who are just as talented, right? What about the people who you graduated film school with who aren't there yet, but they're good writers or they're good directors or good DPs? Network across, network with them. Because in 5 years, these are the same people who are going to be in that position, and you guys can get to that position together. As a writer, find a dope director who you're really good friends with, who's just as hungry as you. Find a really good DP who you're friends with. Now you got and a really good editor. Now you got the 4 main components. You got a director, you got a DP who can shoot it and make it look good. You got an editor who can cut it, and you wrote it. Now you can just fill in the spaces with the other things, and you can shoot your stuff independently. Build those relationships, man, and show people what you can do.
Nice. I love that. Thank you so much, Deji. This is amazing. Is there anything else you want to leave us with that you'll be doing we should be looking out for, or should we stay tuned?
I'm grateful, man. You know, obviously I'm acting. I'm working on the show now called Bosch Legacy that's on Amazon Prime. I was on Bosch for 7 years. Now it's a spinoff show, Bosch Legacy. I have a film that's coming out the end of this year or top of next year called Escaping Paradise that we filmed in the Philippines. Really, really dope action thriller film. Thomas and I, Midnight Train Productions, we got a lot of projects under our slate. Some of them I can't really mention right now, but I also just want to salute you, the official Black magazine. I want to salute all of the journalists out there, all of the platforms, the media platforms that we have to support, right? Because it's your job to get this information to the people. We can't be relying on these major media outlets for our success. It's all about the grassroots. It's all about your magazine, your platform, your YouTube channel, the rest of these guys out there, the rest of these Black women out there who are, you know, who are journalists, who are pushing, you know, press. We got to support y'all the same way we expect. We all have a duty, right? You got the creators, we got to create. You got you guys, you got to get the information out there, and the audience has a responsibility as well to support and watch the content and support y'all, because if they don't, the content goes away. And then we're complaining that we don't have any content for us.
Oh, definitely. Thank you. You always take us to church, huh?
True, man. I've seen it. It's true. It's true. It's so true.
Perfect.